Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our fourth session in a series on more issues that we generally face at one point or another in our lives. I want to thank you all for joining me here today. As always, if you have questions, comments, concerns, if you want to answer some of the questions, please feel free to do so, now that I've actually figured out how to see comments on live videos. So, for those of you following along in your Bibles at home, we will be in Exodus 18, verses 1 through 27, basically all of Exodus 18. So, a little bit of background information as to where we are in the narrative. While the Israelites were in the desert, Moses worked hard judging the disputes of the people. His father-in-law Jethro sees that what he is doing is not healthy and suggests a better way to accomplish this task. So this is sort of the developing of the elders, the kind of alleviating Moses' responsibilities. Before we get to the reading itself, we do have a couple icebreaker questions, as always. First one is, growing up, how were arguments settled in your family? I don't really recall my parents arguing. So it either happened while I was not around, or they were so few and far between that I just don't recall them. But given that my parents still love each other, they're going strong some 30 plus years later, almost 40 years later, if I can do my math correctly. I would say that, their arguments were settled in a very calm manner. They didn't escalate into fights, as it were. So, as for arguments between my brothers and me, my parents played mediator, and being the youngest of three boys, of course, I imitated them, copied them, mimicked them. Basically was a pest to them, as little brothers are responsible for doing, so, hey, I fulfilled my end of the contract. But my parents played mediator, and they basically helped us to come to a solution. I don't know if we necessarily would have come to a solution on our own. Yay, parents. What about you all? Growing up, how were arguments settled in your family? Let me know in the comments below. Our second question is, what is the longest time you've been apart from your family? Longest I've been away from family, probably during my YAV year. As a young adult volunteer, I was in New Orleans, and the majority of my family's in the Detroit area, so I left August of 2015, didn't actually come back home until June of June of 2016, so 10 solid months of being away from him. I didn't even come home for the holidays because I was volunteering at a hospital. Unfortunately, medical emergencies don't take vacation. So I was one of two of the volunteers that stayed in New Orleans through Christmas. We celebrated Christmas together, had cinnamon buns in the morning, and was So we had our own little kind of Christmas celebration, but for the most part, I think that's the longest I've ever been away from family. Because even during seminary, I came back every 6 months at the most for Christmas or Easter or some kind of break. But what about you all? What's the longest time you've ever been apart from your family? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, we will get to the reading for today. Again, we are reading Exodus chapter 18. Listen now for the word of our Lord. Now Jethro, the priest of Midian and father-in-law of Moses, heard of everything God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, and how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, his father-in-law Jethro received her and her 2 sons. One son was named Gershom, for Moses said, I have become an alien in a foreign land, and the other was named Eleazar, for he said, my father's God was my helper, he saved me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, together with Moses' sons and wife, came to him in the desert, where he was camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent word to him, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. They greeted each other and then went into the tent. Moses told his father-in-law about everything the Lord had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and about all the hardships they had met along the way and how the Lord had saved them. Jethro was delighted to hear about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel in rescuing them from the hand of the Egyptians. He said, Praise be to the Lord who rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and of Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all other gods, for he did this to those who had treated Israel arrogantly. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. The next day Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge, while all these people stand around you from morning till evening? Moses answered him, Because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and laws. Moses' father-in-law replied, What you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them the decrees and laws, and show them the way to live and the duties they are to perform, but select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can handle themselves. That will make your load lighter, because they will share it with you. If you do this and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all the people will go home satisfied. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all Israel and made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple cases they decided themselves. Then Moses sent his father-in-law on his way, and Jethro returned to his own country. This is the word of our Lord. Thanks be to God. Our first question is, why do you think Moses worked so hard? No one else could do what he did. He was a workaholic. He was a perfectionist. He hated to say no. He liked to be in control and tell others what to do. He had a need to please others. He thought he was doing what God wanted. A creative solution hadn't been suggested. I think that it's because he thought he was doing what God wanted him to do. The creative solution of having these judges over thousands, tens, 50s, singles, hundreds, whatever, the solution was not presented to him, nor was any other creative solution suggested to him. God had not given him any direction saying, do this. So here stands Moses being told by God of the burning bush, free my people, lead my people to the promised land that I will show you. Well, it falls on the leader in many cases to solve disputes among the workers, among the followers. So Moses probably interpreted it as, all right, I'm responsible for settling their disputes, which means being judge from morning to night, along with everything else that he is responsible for, with ensuring they are given manna, quail, they are not taking more than their fair share, so on and so forth. As the divinely appointed leader, he feels he has to do everything. So my thought is, he probably thought he was doing what God wanted. He thought he was doing the Lord's work. But also, we don't have any record, at least, of other creative solutions being proposed to him, either from God or from someone else. So, and if Moses is doing all of this, he wouldn't have time to think of these solutions. So, I would argue both of those. That he was doing God's work, but that doing all of this work didn't allow him time to come up with any creative solutions, nor did anyone give him creative solutions. What about you all? Why do you think Moses worked so hard? Let me know in the comments below. Number 2, if you were Moses, how would you have felt about Jethro's advice? Scolded, skeptical, cared for, relieved, excited, threatened. Okay, if I were Moses, I feel like I would be absolutely exhausted doing this. So being given a solution where I don't have to listen to every single little dispute, I would be excited that I am finding some reprieve. I would be relieved, and I would feel cared for. I would definitely argue for that. The fact that someone is willing to step forward, say, no, you're doing too much. Take a step back, get some rest, leave this simple stuff to others. They can handle the simple stuff. We'll leave you to the more difficult situations. Okay? I feel like I would have felt cared for by Jethro. I would have felt relieved that I don't have to keep carrying on like this, because I would imagine I'd be feeling very burnt out at this point, having to deal with this day in and day out, and probably a little excited that I may be able to rest easier at night. What about you all? If you were Moses, how would you have felt about Jethro's advice to you? Let me know in the comments. Question 3. Which of the following would be a strength in your life? Which would be a weakness? Settling other people's disputes, listening to suggestions, giving constructive criticism, accepting criticism, delegating responsibility, organizing people and events, releasing control of situations. So of those 7, which is a strength, which is a weakness for you? For me, I feel like a strength would be settling other people's disputes, kind of playing a third party, being a mediator, helping to find that peaceful resolution to, for lack of a better term, negative situations. I feel like that would be a strength of mine. But as for a weakness, I guess accepting criticism. I'm not really the biggest fan of evaluations. I have a history of being critical, so receiving criticism, I'm someone who likes to have it balanced out, tell me equal number of things that I'm doing well as things that need to be improved upon. So it's not just praise and I'm becoming this idol, but it's also not, you're this terrible person, here's this long list of all the things you're doing wrong. So I guess out of all of those, accepting criticism, maybe. I'm very good at listening to suggestions, giving constructive criticism. I don't see that as an issue or weakness. Delegating responsibility, organizing people and events, releasing control of situations. Yeah, I don't see those as weakness. I don't see myself having a problem with any of those, so I guess that leaves accepting criticism. Sure, why not? Let's go with that. And what about you all? Which is a weakness for you? Which is a strength for you? Let me know in the comments below. Number 4, what responsibility has been wearing you out lately? Taking care of the kids, taking care of a parent, settling family disputes, fulfilling church commitments, bringing home the bacon, dealing with all the demands at work, not any one responsibility, but juggling them all, or something else. I don't think there's any one that's really been wearing me out lately. I mean, the thing that has been wearing me out hasn't been really so much a responsibility as just our national situation with the pandemic and whatnot. I'm fulfilling my responsibilities well enough, I believe. But what's been wearing me out is more just the seemingly endless number of days that we are dealing with the pandemic, dealing with having to have the church closed, not being able to have game nights, potlucks, all of these fellowship events that really help me to feel closer to my congregation than just seeing them through windshields on Sunday mornings and talking to them over the phone. But c'est la vie. What about you all? What responsibility has been really kind of wearing you out lately? Let me know in the comments below. Number 5. When is a time you have felt overwhelmed, as Moses must have, as he tried to judge all the people's disputes? What, if anything, did you do to relieve the pressure? In terms of when have I felt overwhelmed, I would say at my last call when it was kind of winding down. Just trying to be a faithful pastor to them to the end, trying not to bring the stresses of work home with me, trying to get my personal information form out there, start thinking about how long we would be able to live in the house we were in, severance packages, all of these sorts of things, just a lot of things all on my plate at once. So that's the first thing that comes to mind, I guess. I can't really think of any other time that I was overwhelmed per se, but what did I do to relieve the pressure? I prayed a lot. I played piano. And I also, I just had it in the back of my mind. Prayed, played piano, and I don't remember what the other one was. Huh. I had a third one and it just escaped me. Anyway, I guess it wasn't really that important. What about you all? When is the time you have felt overwhelmed? What did you do to kind of relieve that pressure, that feeling of being overwhelmed? Let me know in the comments below. Number 6, where do you sense God challenging you to change your routine? In prayer, in Bible study, household chores, in work, with my family, in sleeping, in exercise, something else. Well, where I sense God challenging me is I guess in devotion, in morning/evening devotionals. I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I'm very picky about what I use as a devotional. If it's too long, it has to be more than just a verse. It has to be more than just a page, but I don't want it to be 12 different Bible passages, each of them 50 verses in length, and as well as at least one passage out of the Book of Confessions. It doesn't need to be something that takes an hour. So kind of finding that happy median between a cherry-picked Bible verse and reading 5 chapters in the Bible every night, something kind of in between. That's probably where God is challenging me. Where I feel myself challenging myself, at least, is definitely the exercise. Since moving to Arkansas, I have not really gone for jogs at all. I've taken the dog for walks, but that's it. And not only would Katie and I be weary about getting a gym membership, but that would cost quite a bit of money to have a gym membership. So, for what it's worth. What about you all? Where do you sense God challenging you to change your routine? Let me know in the comments below. Number 7, how can this group help lighten your load by praying for you now and in the coming week? So, last question as always, how can this group pray for you? If you have any prayer requests, please feel free to let me know via email, comments in the comment section down below, phone call, text message. Pop in and visit, and we can talk if you're in the area. I'm here for you all. But this is our last lesson of this week. We'll pick up again on Monday with lesson 5. So until then, have a good weekend. Stay well, stay safe. God bless.